Yes, guys, welcome back to another video. In this one, I want to talk about the transformation that the Adelaide Crows have had in the off-season, the impressiveness of their pre-season, and then, of course, that game at the weekend against the Saints where they absolutely dismantled them. I want to talk about their premiership aspirations this season because I think the sky is the limit for the Crows. I want to kick things off with just going through the team because I think where all of the upside comes for the Crows is with their list management and the team build that they've been putting together. I think there's so many pundits that are underrating the Crows at the moment. So I want to go through line by line and see what they can do in 2025. Kicking things off with the defense here. And if you look down the middle of that defense, I've got two players there listed in green, and that's because I think they stand to have the biggest transformative effect on this team. Murray there, who stands to play as that key position lockdown defender. He's their best one-on-one defender in the team. And just getting him back, getting him fit, I think can shape this defense, give them that focal point so all the other players can work off and they can do all their rebounding and their attacking and that sort of thing. Because that's one of the areas of their game, I think, in the last couple of seasons, they haven't been able to take those big intercept marks that the best teams in the competition ultimately need to be able to score off the back half. Now, they were able to do that at the weekend against the Saints. They rebounded really well. I think they scored about 65 points off turnover, a lot of scores from the back half as well. Now, it's probably a little bit early to get too excited about that against St Kilda. They do have a very short forward line, which means defenders do have an advantage in the air. They can rebound, they can score, those sorts of things. But getting Nick Murray back in this team is the number one priority for Adelaide from a defensive point of view into their back line. You've got Worrell, the other player there, and I think he's the one to me that I've seen across the preseason just show the biggest improvement in his game. And I think he stands to be the one that can be that intercept defender. There's been a lot of talk about, do they need to swing Jordan Dawson back? Who is going to do their intercept work? But I think from what I've seen of Worrell this preseason, he can be that guy. And if he is to be that guy, I don't see why Adelaide can't consider their back six one of the strongest in the competition. The last player that I've got actually coloured there is Rory Laird, who played at the weekend. I think he had 28, 29 disposals. I think that's a bit of a concern for Adelaide fans, and it's probably the only red flag of this back line at the moment. The fact that Rory Laird is being your biggest offensive threat, your biggest offensive distributor. I think against good teams, Rory Laird getting 27, 28 touches off the half back line could be a little bit of a concern, and you'd probably want the ball to be in a better user's hands. Someone like Wayne Miller, who's up there on the interchange at the moment. I think if Wayne Miller can stay fit in this team, he is the offensive threat that they really need. They've got Michelini back there who does that lockdowning on the opposition's best small forwards. You've got Hinge who does a bit of that. Hinge can rebound a little bit. He's a pretty high meters game player, but he doesn't necessarily have the precision of some of the best halfbacks to be able to control the football when those momentum swings ultimately come. You want somebody like Wayne Miller on the ball who has that control just to be able to slow things down and keep everybody calm at the back. I think Keane has been a real find for Adelaide. I think he was a Cat B rookie, something like that. He's an Irish guy. He's come into the team last year and been one of their better players. He can play on really versatile forward options from the opposition. He's sort of a 190 centimetre guy. He intercepts the football pretty well, so he can do a little bit of that. He can lock down. He's got the athleticism to be able to play on different types. So I really like him as an option. I mentioned Michelini, but I see this defence as potentially one of the biggest improving defences in the competition. And other than Rory Laird having too much footy back there, I don't see a lot of downside for this defence. Now, if we move to the midfield, this is another area of massive growth for the Adelaide Crows. Now, there are some problems, and again, I'll go through this. You can see that Riley O'Brien is listed in red. I think it's not that I don't like Riley O'Brien as a ruckman. I think what he does, his style of ruckman, it's a little bit old school. It's a little bit, it's strong hit out to advantage based. So he wins the hit outs in the contest. He doesn't give you a lot outside of that. And we know that a large proportion of the game is won outside of clearance. Riley O'Brien doesn't really give you that extra runner, that extra midfielder that some of the best rucks are doing now. You think of Gawn, you think of Rowan Marshall, you think of Tristan Sherry. He's not really getting involved in that part of the game, which could hamper and probably needs to temper expectations a little bit when you look at this Adelaide midfield, but it does work to a game style that they can implement, and we'll talk about that with Matt Crouch as well within the mix. If you look at the two greens I've got there, you've had Isaac Cumming, who's coming from the Giants. He gives them such a a better option to use on the wing. I talked in the preseason and said he probably needs to go behind the ball to do that intercept work, but we've talked about the emergence of Worrell. I think he improves things there. So Isaac Cumming can be that athletic winger, that player that has aerial ability to be able to push opposition defenses when he goes forward. He can come and be an outlet off the back line, and he's a really good runner as well, so he's going to create overloads on the opposition. Now, the other player in green there is Jake Saligo. I've just seen such a growth in this guy throughout the preseason. I think he's added physicality to his game. He's added power to his game. He's now getting out the front of the stoppage. He's pushing guys away. He's got a real dynamism to his game that I don't think he's had in other seasons. I think he's kind of showed glimpses of it, but now he's starting to do it consistently. I don't think Saligo's a player at the moment that needs to get huge numbers, but if he's getting plus 20 disposals, they're probably going to be pretty impactful disposals. So I think he's massive in there, and he allows them to be able to play players like Josh Rochelle and Isaac Rankin forward of the ball. You've got Dawson in there who's just an unbelievably flexible, versatile player. He's so good overhead. He could almost play anywhere on the field, this guy. He is Adelaide's Marcus Bontempelli. I think he's got a bit of speed and power there as well to be able to break out a stoppage, but he can float in the forward line. He can take big marks. And again, if you've got players like Cumming pushing forward, you've got players like Dawson pushing forward, they're starting to create real headaches for matchups when they push forward. The third midfielder in there, and the one that Nick seems to be really strong on, is Matt Crouch. Now, I think Matt Crouch does some things really well. He's one of the best first hands players, so he reacts to those stoppages. He has a really good synergy with Riley O'Brien that they can find each other, and I think that's really powerful for Adelaide to get on top in the clearances, at least keep that field position and stop the opposition from winning them themselves. Now, Matt Crouch isn't going to break the game open off his own boot, but I think in this system with Riley O'Brien as the ruckman, it does work to some level. You've just got to find a way for Matt Crouch to be able to release those players like Rankin, like Dawson, like Saligo, so that they can get you into more advantageous scoring opportunities inside forward 50. So I think that works for now. You've got Peatling up there as the midfield bench option. I think he's going to be come in handy a lot when you've got to do those jobs on the opposition's best players, whether he's playing on a midfielder or even maybe playing on a small forward or an offensive defender from the opposition. Peatling can do that. So that it gives them some defensive flexibility that they perhaps haven't had in past seasons. I've got Rankin there, who in this lineup I've got starting forward, and then he comes in. I think at the weekend he had about 30% centre bounces. So just doing that more heavy forward mix. I think when he gets more conditioning into him and he comes back, he has a bit more time in his body from those injuries, I think he'll play a heavier midfield role. And it kind of depends, I think, match specific as to who they're up against, opponents and whatnot, and how much they need to have that really dynamism in the midfield. You got Draper in there as the extra midfielder. I think that's more than anything for the Crows at the moment. It's about getting games into Draper. He's got a little bit of flexibility in the fact that he can go forward and hit the scoreboard as well. So someone that can rest, and they're starting to build this really modular forward midfield connectivity with the likes of Rankin, Rochelle, of Draper, even Saligo, where they rotate forward, Dawson a little bit too, Curtin, these types of players. So they're always, asking questions of the opposition with players like that. And I think that's really powerful for them in 2025. If we head into the forward line, again, those green dots that I've got there, I think Alex Neil-Bullen has been absolutely flawless in this high half forward role for Adelaide. And if we talk about what teams need to win premierships, to win big finals in 2025, it's about moving the ball from the back half, and it's about winning those contests inside forward 50 when you hit teams on the counter, operating inside tight spaces. Alex Neil-Bullen is one of the best players in the competition at doing that, and it's probably a position that Adelaide haven't been able to find players organically with going to the draft. So getting in, Keys a few years ago from Brisbane, who's playing that role on the other forward flank, and then Alex Neil-Bullen, I think they've got two of the best in the competition at that particular role. Riley Thilthorpe's the other one there in green. I just think his natural progression as a young forward, how strong he's gotten, how much he looms as a real game breaker for the Crows to win big, take big contested marks inside forward 50, be their outlet to come up to the wings, test the opposition again as well, because when you look at this forward line overall, there's a lot of height in it. Not many opposition defenses are going to have the amount of players to be able to go with all of these guys. So Riley Thilthorpe's a wild card for Adelaide, and I think he's going to be huge this season. Fogarty's there as well. He's another problem for the opposition. He's nuggety, he's strong, he's explosive, he can burst through. He can be that kind of Toby Green, but even with a little bit more height, more of a key position size. So he's really dangerous. You've got Rankin down there. And I mentioned Alex Nilbullen and Keys. And then you've also got Rochelle there, who I've got on the bench at the moment. Him coming off the bench, like he had 12 score involvements against the Saints the other day. So creative, so calm, in possession of the ball. I think maybe from Rochelle, if there's one part of his game that he needs to improve, it's that defensive pressure. But I think if they can sort of instill that in him, you've got Nilbullen there, you've got Keys there, you've got Rochelle pressuring inside the forward 50. That's going to be really strong for the Crows as well. Now, I've got Tex in red there. I think, potentially if you're looking at this team, you're comparing it to some of the best teams in the competition. Tex could be a little bit of a problem as the season goes on. He was used as a sub in this game, or at least he came off as the sub in this game against St Kilda. But just from a defensive pressure point of view and a mobility point of view, I think that is something that is eluding him a little bit at the moment, just given his age. I think at times in 2025, they will have to experiment with Tex Walker out of the side, get a little bit more mobility in there, even if it's a bit of a pseudo tall, someone like a Dowling who can come in and play as a medium, or if it's a Murray as well is another option for them as just a straight swap for another key position forward. But this forward line, I think, is one of the most dynamic and impactful in the competition. If they can get the balance right between offense and defense with locking the ball inside forward 50, it is going to be scary. You look over at the bench there. So Miller as that sort of smaller defensive option, I think he has a big role to play in this team from a ball control point of view. Draper as the sub there, we talked about him. Rochelle, such an offensive threat. Dan Curtin's the other one that we didn't speak about there. I think he gives them a lot of flexibility, the fact that he can float behind the ball, be an extra key position defender, and then go forward to the ball and be a key tool as well. And he's another one that probably could replace Tex Walker at times if form's not there and they don't think he has that athleticism and movement to go as they need him to go in the back half of the year perhaps. But overall, I think having a player like Curtin off the bench gives you flexibility, particularly if there's an injury as well, an in-game injury. That's going to help a lot. And Peatling as that defensive stopper. So this team, to me, ultimately just looks so balanced overall. And the flag crom shouts of the preseason, I think, could come true, particularly if Adelaide go on an early run here. First step is getting that win over the Bombers this week, but I think the Crows are poised for big things in 2025.